here we have two sessions, two periods. However, this one has two different part under there. Two different part, maybe not. I'm not sure this part. I forgot. Okay, this one has a two part. First part, 5,800 research part. Okay, let's go for it. Uh, oops, where did it go? Okay. So first part from 5,800 and the other one is from this. So it's more the moderate to severe and then in the seminar the how to write, that type of a thing that we wanted to. I don't like it, but this is the only thing that we're doing it. Okay, some of the research, do you remember that maybe I'm not sure if you take it from me, but let me find my note on 5,800, the guideline for defining it. No, I mean critiquing the paper. Okay, let me see. So this part, you will provide it with an article a week before the comms, okay? So you will download it from the Canvas, okay? But this is the critique that I usually ask my students to do twice in the midterm and then the final. And then, so you have to know the research question, what the research question is. Week before the comms, you will have a download one article and then you will see what the research questions are. You have to read through it and then identify what are the variables, what are the subjects, what are the instruments, and then, you know, how many subjects were there. You just kind of need to know that much. And then each one you have to, if you can say, you know, the instrument wasn't very good or subject is too small, number of subjects or, you know, groups were, wasn't very nice. So you have to critique everything. And then result is important part. So you have to know what was the result of the study. And then now you have to critique. Okay. And then is that really the result is matches with their data. So you have to know that. And then conclusion, what are the limitation of the paper? It is in the paper, so you have to read and then see, even they thought there was the limitation, you know, it's a small number of subjects or, you know, something. They will write what was the limitation of the research so you can suggest next time you should do this better or something, you know. And then what are the implication? I think this is the important part. So like, okay, this is the study, wonderful study. However, use it in my classroom setting in this way so you can explain that. Or you can say, yeah, it is a wonderful paper, but it's just a one student in the class, in the research. I don't think it will work with my student because blah, blah, blah. You just cannot say, it doesn't work for me, but you will say why it is not. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the important part. This is the result is yeah, it's okay, but I'm not sure they will apply to my class because in my class I see this, so this that might not work. I have seen one article. That article was, you know, what was it? I couldn't believe that passed the peer review. Uh, they said, oh, the person will learn with a good objective of the lesson. And then so person can cross the street eight times out of 10 times very safely with this instruction. For me, what? So 2 times they can be killed? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
But the paper
Okay.
says that eight times out of a 10 trial, they can cross the street safely. Uh, so it sounds wonderful. And then actually they went out to the crosswalk and then they did that. But it was very small rural area. Car doesn't come. And then whole entire town has only one the traffic light. So yeah, they can, say, yeah, I'm passing, and they can say it, but still without hitting by car because there's no car around, they can pass 8 times. However, we cannot use it because, ours have too many cars out there. So we cannot set the goal like 8 out of 10 times safe crossing the street. We cannot do that in a bigger city. So I can say, yes, it might be, good idea with the students with moderate to severe to teach, crossing the street. It's a great study. However, it was done in a rural area. So if I do it in this inner city, it will not work because too many cars. Do you understand? That's the critique. Uh, the reason that I give you is that we do not give out the question. We hand out the article. So you have
Right.
to
So
read
you have
it.
time to really go through
Right.
it and understand it and know it.
Right. So that's why this is what
Hmm.
I go through in the 5800. So if you look through it, but I really want you to focus in on, the implication, how that can be applied to your setting. Okay. That's a one thing I want you to think about. And the other one is like, what was the variable and then how they did the sampling, right? I don't know if you know the random sample or it was a convenience sample. So you have to critique on the research method. That's the one thing. And then the other one is you have to know how that can be applied your own teaching. Okay. So that's a thing. And then, I mean, result is more like, okay, if you do the method, it's a result and then the method that matches pretty good. But if you know that part, so go through this one when you get the paper. Think about if you can answer these, and then conclusion part. Application is important. So we call this one internal validity, and then this one we call external validity. In the, which means internal means data is really well collected, and then the data collection is good enough to it bring the related to the result very good. So it's a good research. Internal validity high means it's a good, well controlled research. Okay, but external validity means it's highly likely to be used in a real setting. So generalization is pretty good of this one. Okay, that makes sense. This one
Yeah.
is research itself is good, no matter what. It is a useful or not, but by itself is very good. External means, oh yeah, this one can be applied to other real teaching setting. So those are the two different things that I want you to think about. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gave this one. And so that's the A part, research part. So it's like, here's a little bit of a question as well. I gave you a little bit more detailed list, but this is what you most of likely the questions on the comps, okay? And then theory part here, same way, least restrict environment. What does that mean? Obviously, this one is related to the Ulfensberger 1971 to that time. And then deinstitutionalization. So the normalization was an issue there. Normalization, so least restricted, what does that mean? In the IDEA, we have this one. However, in school, we try to do, the cascade model. So you have to kind of know. So some students is SDC. You have a special ed school issue, but SDC or, part-time, so like a few courses they will go into the gen ed, and then the half of the day they will be in gen ed, or they will be in the gen ed and then pull out, or they will be in the full time in gen ed and then maybe they will get some support. That's a least restrictive
Environment.
environment, yeah. But what's the problem with this one? I wanted to discuss, but I think it's a little too much. Uh, the issue with this one is, yeah, once the child is placed, it is permanent most of the time. So that's the big issue of this one. Yeah, diversity, how you gonna educate here, okay? Uh, what will be the appropriate strategy educate students from diverse background. So
Background.
as a
Okay.
teacher, I want you to tell me how would you approach. That makes sense? Yeah. So even yeah, so bring parents in or giving more visual cues or something they have to. This is the people having more issue, this part. Traditional or developmental philosophy, traditional developmental, or functional curriculum. Okay, age appropriate functional. So traditional means developmental theory, everybody going through the same developmental process. And then bottom or lower one is a prerequisite to learn the next level. This is the prerequisite for the next level. Okay, this is the way they are thinking. That's a traditional developmental philosophy. So that one is a developmental theory. So they going in this way, which means, think about it. If you have a child with a significant disability, so you have to think about child has to have I will get it into the number concept. Child has to learn the number concept. They have to be able to count to 1 to 100 to use the $1, and then they have to do plus and minus, and then they have the fractions, and then you keep going. Then there will be no way with a significant disability just stuck here. Will never go up this way. Do you understand? So instead of teaching this way, we wanted to do functional. So here's a vending machine. Okay. Even you don't have to know the fractions and then how much, but so here's a vending machine, slot machine right there, and just you put that coin there. If you know about the number four concept, the 1 to 4, then you can live without any problem. But in special ed, what do you do? If you want to go out shopping, this chocolate is about this much money. And then now you have to, in California, 0.98 is the tax. So you have to have this one, you have to calculate the tax. And then this becomes $0.09. So you have to prepare this much money. Just give a $2 or a $5 bill or $2 bills to the person and then let them figure out and we just get the money. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's more the functional, what they need.
Mhm.
So, based on what they need, we can teach age appropriate. This is more important than traditional developmental. So, why don't we teach more functional skills? And then, we can go the upward or the downward, whatever the functional we need. And then from there, yes, you need a dollar bill. We can teach a little later. So what are the functional curriculum or instructional material and like that. So instructional material, everything. If you are teaching the little kids, I mean, moderate to severe, let's say puzzle. So child has only two or three or piece puzzle. These are all farm animals. Why we have to? But 22-year-old sitting around and then do the farm animal and then the cartoon characters. That's not age appropriate material. Can we make it bigger with age appropriate material? That's social story. So let's wash hands. Let's make that social story. Then, if it is a child, then the song or everything can be little cute there. Why is she like this? But if you are teaching that same social story to the high school kids, then has to be a little bit more adult-like language we wanted to use. So age-appropriate material or how you want to method. You don't use the moderate anymore. When child is a little, child with autism, hey, come on here. A 22-year-old autism, come on here. You don't do that anymore. Just kind of treat them like adults. So those are the different things. Section B, probably they will have a little bit more difficulty in the section A
Okay.
of a
Okay.
5800 because it's the research. So
Yeah.
people have a little bit of fear, but I gave you that thing. So if you can see that, that would be no problem. But people have more section 1, which is that you had an orientation in the morning.
Mhm.
I mean, before me. Period 3, methodology question. I really want application I want you to focus on. Okay. So I want to see, do you see section 1, period 1 and 2, you will have a citation more. In here, I want your example and then give your teaching experience here. For example,
Yeah.
task analysis. So you explain task analysis, and then here, what do? I use this task analysis in my teaching
Practice.
this skill. Do you
Okay.
understand what I'm saying? So I
Yes, I
want you
do.
to focus on application part of answer. That's what I
Sounds
want
good.
to see. How you learn things you apply. That's about it, actually. So that's about it, actually. He pushes
Okay.
us quicker, but that's what I want. So first, period 2, section 1 and 2. Make sure that you talk about the research. One is more theory basis, so you will have a citation 1 or 2. But the third part, even you don't have a citation, I want you to write your real life activity example. Okay? Yeah, so you have to explain what it is and then how that applied in your teaching. So give
Okay.
so support with your actual example. That's why section 3 is much easier than other one but if you're not teaching, then it will be harder, but